Scarecrows are the subject of so many different forms of entertainment: art, songs, stories, film. In the U.S., scarecrows are often some of the first decorations to indicate that fall has arrived. They are also the subject of many festivals all around the world. That's right, scarecrow festivals. Sounds pretty wholesome, right? Well, for the most part, yes, it is. The modern scarecrow is often depicted with a jolly face, tattered clothes, and a straw hat, sending nostalgia to all of those who pass by. But scarecrows have not always been the wide smile, rosy cheeked guardians most often seen today. Scarecrows have historically been revered as powerful effigies, sometimes hosting the spirit of a deity, sometimes hosting entrapped evil spirits, both of them put there by humans to do their bidding. Scarecrows, like everything, have a shadow side, and here on the podcast, I love to illuminate it. So, buckle up, baby. By the end of today's episode, you are going to know so much more than you ever could have imagined about the iconic fall figure, the Scarecrow. A word of warning here, though. This episode does contain some mature themes right from the start, so listen with care. If there are little ears around, you might want to wait until there aren't, because this episode is for adults only. With that being said, my name is Wishamaya. Welcome to Wishcrafting. I'm so happy to have you here. Let's jump right into this year's Halloween episode about scarecrows. Scarebirds, jacks of straw, tatty bogies, watchers of corn sprouts, terrifiers. We call them scarecrows, but beneath this tattered cloak is a long history of doing much more than simply scaring away birds. As early as 3,000 years ago, the ancient Egyptians were hanging tunics on sticks to scare birds away from crops along the Nile. And in ancient Greece, statues of the fertility god Priapus were erected in fields to scare away birds from crops. Priapus was a protector of flocks and fields, as well as orchards and gardens. He started off as a fertility deity and was regarded somewhat like the force that actually inspired everything to reproduce, kind of like the embodiment of horniness or sex drive. And sometimes he was petitioned to help out with things that related to that, like male impotence. But as he got more popular, he started to guard more important things, i.e. the food. And his statues would threaten anyone who dared to steal it away with raunchy sex acts. And if vague threats of unconsensual sex with a deity wasn't enough, some of the Priapus statues had removable dicks that the owner could use as a club to chase away trespassers. He had a removable club dick. And this is why I spend a little bit more time on Greek and Roman mythology, because they were just so extra with absolutely everything. And I have to talk about it. I have to talk about it to you. You need to know. So here we are. We are in Club Dick land now. And as much as I would like to stay here with you, let's hop over to Japan real quick, because on the other side of that coin, we have 8th century Japan, where they had Kukubo, which was the Shinto deity of agriculture, wisdom, and knowledge. Each spring, farmers would invite the god to come down from his home in the mountains and inhabit their scarecrows, called Kakashi. The Kakashi saw everything through, and the birds that did land on the Kakashi were said to be whispering secrets to Kukubo. And I hope I'm saying that name right. It could be Quakibo. I'm not sure. It's spelled Kuikibo. And I love the way that Kukubo sounds, so I'm going to say it until you guys correct me, okay? Anyways, in autumn, after the last harvest was completed, the Kakashi would be taken down, gathered up, and put in a pile together. And the farmers would make a circle of offerings around the Kakashi. And these offerings were of things like rice that they had been harvesting, rice cakes, things like that. Some kind of portion of the harvest were put in a circle of offerings around the Kakashi. And once they were placed, they would set them on fire and release the spirit of Kukubo to make his ascent back to his home in the mountains. This ritual is called the Ascent of the Scarecrow, which is just lovely, if you ask me. Similarly, there is a ritual in Germany where in early spring, effigies of witches would be brought into the fields. It was believed that these witch effigies would call up the spirits of winter that were left in the ground and hold them there until autumn. The effigies would then double as both a holding cell and a scarecrow until after the last harvest, at which time the scarecrow sorceresses would be burned and the spirits of winter released once again to have their season. The modern scarecrow began morbidly when the plague of Europe, yes, the plague, the Black Death, killed such large numbers of people that there weren't enough bird scarers to go around. Which, yes, that was an actual occupation. Bird scarers were hired by farmers to go into their fields and clack rocks together to shoo them away from crops. However, once plague hit, farmers began stuffing clothes and putting them out in the fields to look like their bird scarers were there, because at this point, the birds knew that there were danger in the fields, so all the farmers had to do was make sure that there was someone out there, even if that someone was a scarecrow. At least that's how my brain puts this together, and knowing how diggity dang smart crows actually are, this would make sense. So, the only shift in scarecrows between ancient Japan and Egypt and then this time period in Europe seems to be that scarecrows went from being clothes hung on sticks to clothes stuffed and hung on sticks to seem more, real. In the United States, the Pennsylvania Dutch would put a Bootsman and Bootsefrau, or Boogeyman and Boogiewife, up in their fields. This name harkens back to the German tale of the boogeyman, but they are two separate things. However, both scarecrows and the German boogeyman do wear tattered clothes, so it's not that big of a jump. When the Pennsylvania Dutch immigrated to the U.S., they brought their folklore with them, as you do, and then, as often happens, it evolved. The PA Dutch story of the scarecrow is this. The farmer became irate and exhausted, always fighting the birds so that he could make a living. One day, inspiration struck, and he fashioned a bootsman out of old bits and bobs, a broken mop for the body, a half broom for the arms, a bucket with just a bit of face paint as a head, and for the finishing touch, a red handkerchief around the neck. The farmer set the scarecrow in the field so he could get to work. When the next morning came, the farmer was so shocked to find that the bootsman had tears on his face. Feeling for the lonely scarecrow, the farmer constructed him a Bootsefrau, or Boogiewife, which he fixed with a dress and bonnet. Together, they happily guard the orchards and cornfields to this day. A quaint tale, and it could be where the folk believe that scarecrows travel in pairs, or that scarecrows never travel alone, originates. Crafting a scarecrow guardian for your home could be a great family craft, and having little ones bless or breathe life into your guardian could be really empowering for little witches. But of course, it's also something you can do solo. However, you could also employ scarecrows for specific purposes in magic. If you have a certain spell or a certain manifestation you're working on, You could potentially get Scarecrow's aid in protecting your seeds that you've sown whilst they grow, your magical seeds while they grow. Or perhaps have your Scarecrow guard a magical working until the magic is done. There's lots and lots of possibilities there. I, for one, will absolutely be crafting a small host of mini scarecrows on sticks to put in my potted plants. Because, of course, I will. Just remember that if you do decide to craft a scarecrow, make sure to treat it like a friend. Give it offerings, talk to it, don't neglect it, because that is when it will start turning away from you. And we all know that scary scarecrow stories exist for a reason. Don't get yourself haunted. And that, my friends, is all I have for you on our short and sweet Halloween episode for this year, 2024. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Wishamaya, and I'll catch you in the next one.